they have capital?
Why don't they have capital? Because they don't have roads. That's exactly what he's saying.
That's actually really funny.
Bro, I don't understand. That's like a 5-year. That's like, oh, shit, dude.
No, it's circular logic.
Yeah,
you can't have roads without capital, and you can't have capital without roads. They're hand in hand.
You can't lay the foundation before they lay the... I was trying to reference The Last of Us. I couldn't remember. We can't pour until they lay the foundation. We can't lay the foundation until they pour. There you go. Something like that, right? I don't know. I don't remember. I have never seen this channel before. It's called Real Life Lore. It has like 7 million subscribers. I've never seen it. I don't know where they get the stats from. We're going to watch it. If it starts to like make me uncomfortable with what it's saying, like starting to say some weird shit, I'm just going to turn off from it. I'm not going to watch it. Maybe I might watch this with somebody else. I don't know. But I'm going to go into it. And then we'll see how it goes.
Mexico is one of the...
Oh, yeah, sorry. The video is why 82% of Mexico is empty.
Mexico is one of the largest and most important countries of the modern era. As of 2023, more than 128 million people live within the country, making Mexico one of the top 10 largest countries in the
Mr. Beast has more subscribers than there are people in Mexico.
World by population, right in between Japan and Russia. But these 128 million people who call Mexico population...
Wow, I didn't know there was that many people in Japan. That's a lot of people on an island. And it's not even, like, crowded. I mean, the main cities are, but that's every main city. Russia, wow.
Right in between Japan and Russia. But these 128 million people who call Mexico home today all live within a rather unequal pattern that might appear strange at first, but makes perfect sense with the proper context and explanation. You see, slightly more than half of Mexico's population, some 66 million people, all live within just this concentrated and narrow
Is that music? That music's coming from the video. Are you kind of vibing right now? You're vibing to Mexico statistics?
Strip that runs roughly across the center of the country. This strip represents only 18% of Mexico's total available land.
What's it called? Why aren't they telling us? I want to know right now.
Yet there are more Mexicans who live within it than outside of it in the remaining 82%.
Does it not have a name? So just a lot of people live in a little bit of land. That's everywhere, right? Am I wrong?
Of the country. Okay. This means that, on average, the density of people who live within this strip is roughly 5 times greater than in the vast majority of Mexico's land that exists beyond it.
I get it. So why?
To the north and the south. And the really fascinating thing is that this strange, uneven-seeming pattern of where people live in Mexico has remained more or less constant, going back at least centuries, and more likely, millennia. Nearly 130 years ago now, back in 1895, Mexico conducted a nationwide census that revealed the population back then was only about 12.7 million people. Or in other words, 10 times fewer people than exist in Mexico today.
Okay.
Nonetheless, the pattern of where those Mexicans of 130 years ago lived was statistically very similar to where they live in the present. Roughly.
Yeah. Like, when America had the gold rush and they had to incentivize people to move out west, you know? Because we gave them incentives. Because normally people just stay where they live. No real reason to travel. I want to know more about the environment. I don't want to know, like, I don't care about these random stats, right? Like, they're just throwing out, like... I mean, okay, maybe it's all coming together. I just want to know why.
55% of them live within the same strip of high density as today, while 45% of them lived in the 82% of Mexico's land beyond it. Fast forward almost 130 years later, with 10 times as many people and vastly superior technology, and the pattern of where Mexicans live in their country remains more or less the same. And this is fascinating because it's precisely the opposite of what happened just to the north of Mexico.
It's because we gave incentives to move places. Like right now we're giving Austin, Texas is getting incentives for tech companies to move there. There's oil companies in the south. California had incentives. Still has incentives. Is he going to talk about this? This seems weird. I don't know. It feels like it can go one way, if you know what I mean.
In the United States. Back in 1895, the American population stood at around 76 million people, and the top 10 largest cities were these ones, while the top 10 most... 76 million people, and the top 10 largest cities were these ones, while the top 10 most populous states were all of these highlighted ones.
I don't know.
Correspondingly, the geographical center of the American population at that time was located around here in eastern Indiana. But the following 130 years till the present in the 2020s saw the enormous expansion of American populations both westwards and southwards through the country to the point where today, only 3 of the top 10 largest American cities in 1895 still remain on the same list today, while 4 of the top 10 most populous
Chicago, baby.
states in 1895 have fallen out and gotten replaced entirely by western and southern states.
What? That's gotta be... You're crazy for this one. Really? North Carolina? Why is North Carolina populated? What they got there? They got nothing there. They got like Nag's Head, Raleigh, right? But that's like a that's a small city, dude. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess a lot of people live throughout the state. Atlanta, right? Makes sense. Georgia, makes sense. Everything in Georgia makes sense for why it's a populated place. A lot of things to do there, a lot of sites, a lot of shopping malls. Florida makes sense because that's where everybody retires. That's where all of that's where all the Republicans are, all the Florida men. California makes sense. A lot of incentives to live there. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna have a bigger population like right here because of wildfires and devastations to the west. Earthquakes, wildfires. And I also feel like people are gonna get either tax incentives to move here, or it's going to be like the new hip spot, like this part of the country. Texas makes sense. It's always made sense. It's just a lot of people there from a lot of different communities.
As recently as 18...
Like Native, you have Native Americans, you have Mexicans who move up to Texas, and then you have Southerners in Texas who moved from the East Coast to there, and now you have people in the tech industry moving to Texas, so that makes sense.
1895, Florida's population was fewer than Connecticut, Texas was fewer than Missouri, while California's was even fewer than Mississippi.
Yeah, look how far away it is. Who's gonna travel out there? There's nothing out there if you've never been there. That's so far to go.
All 3 are the top 3 most populous states now in the 2020s, after experiencing massive growth rates and
oil company. Oil company, real estate,
expanding their populations dozens of times over since the turn of the 20th century. And correspondingly, the geographic center of the American population has shifted nearly 400 miles to the southwest and central Missouri from where it had been in eastern Indiana. Over the past 130 years, the American population expanded roughly 4 times, and the pattern of where they geographically lived evolved dramatically. While in Mexico, the population expanded roughly 10 times over the same time period, but the pattern of where they lived geographically remained proportionally more or less consistent all throughout to the present.
I don't know, you're saying this, but also you just...
So the population expanded roughly 10 times.
Hold on, let's go back.
And the pattern...
So if we look here, and we look here, this is roughly the same area. It's the same density. This is the only new part that really expands a lot. Like even, I mean, I'm just looking at the map. I'm not like getting my own stats. And then even here, there's already population. Now it's just population growth. But it's just ease of access, right? Like you can get a plane ticket now. You can drive there. There's towns that are set up already. Like,
the pattern of where they geographically lived evolved dramatically. While in Mexico, the population expanded roughly 10 times over the same time period, but the pattern of where they lived geographically remained proportionally more or less consistent all throughout to the present.
Right.
So what gives? Why over centuries of time have most Mexicans continually lived within just a small area representing less than 1/5 of the country's available land? The answer, as it often does, lies in the harsh realities of Mexico's geography and the limitations those realities curse the country with. Let's begin by looking at Mexico from a bit of a different perspective. These are the various different climate zones that can be found across the country.
It's hot as hell.
Note that the small strip that's always contained the majority of Mexico's population corresponds nearly exactly with this narrow climate band of subtropical highlands that runs across the same area. This temperate climate band exists in a sort of perfect Goldilocks zone across the center of Mexico. All of the land to the north of it is dominated by arid and hot desert biomes, where
I'll be talking about it like it's Minecraft. Hot desert biomes.
farming large-scale agriculture without industrialized irrigation is nearly impossible, severely limiting the amount of food that can be grown to sustain a larger population. And at the same time, nearly all of the land in Mexico to the south of this Goldilocks temperate zone is dense rainforest or jungle biomes, which is one of the most
This is actually sounding like Minecraft.
absolutely difficult kinds of biomes to develop civilization within for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Even for 21st century industrialized civilizations, jungles and rainforests prove difficult to overcome because building infrastructure through them is a significant challenge. It obviously rains a lot in these biomes, and that makes things like drying concrete for your roads or foundations rather difficult. Asphalt isn't a much better material to use either, because excessive heat, which is often the norm for these kinds of environments, causes the asphalt to soften and deform when placed under heavy enough loads. Therefore, building paved roads through jungles and rainforests is simply a more expensive and labor-intensive process by nature than it is nearly anywhere else. And that's largely why there's still today only 8 paved roads that extend across the entirety of Mexico's 1,100 kilometers of southernmost frontiers through the jungles, with Guatemala
Right, but it's not because it's difficult, right? It's because they don't have like a company town paying millions to have it made to make profit. Like, right? Like, it's not because it's difficult. Like, there's a lot of things that are difficult that have been made in other countries, especially when like a big government comes overhead and makes it. Like China, for instance. Like, they have very dry areas as well as very wet, marshy areas. No? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? It's very harsh climates.
and Belize. Only 8 paved roads that connect Mexico with the entirety of Central America. And then why even further to the south, there isn't even a single paved road from Panama into Colombia that would otherwise connect the two Americas together. Across Mexico's southernmost borders through the jungles, there is only an average of 1 paved crossing for every 137 kilometers of distance. Meanwhile, along a more temperate boundary where it's easier and cheaper to construct paved roads in, like between Spain and Portugal, the concentration is more like 1 paved road for every 9 kilometers.
Well, yeah. You're in Europe, dog. That's a completely different place. What are you on about?
The border length. More roads mean better and less expensive transportation options for more people, which means a better ability to conduct trade and business, and a corresponding
Well, no, it doesn't. That's not true. Roads don't mean... Whoa, okay, all right. This is what I thought.
transportation options for more people.
More transportation options for more people. Right, but with what money to buy a car? With what money to pay the taxes that lead to the transportation of the roads? Like, yes, it's good to have a road that you can use if you have a vehicle to use that road. But like, could they not make things such as trains in this neighborhood, in this area, in this climate? Is it much harder to make paved roads than it is to make just one single train track that could be like a high-speed rail? I mean, roads aren't the solutions to having civilians being able to travel, especially in countries where not everybody has a car.
Which means a better ability to conduct trade and business. And
It doesn't mean better for business at all. I don't believe that, because who are you connecting to? What business is...
a correspondingly better ability for more people to capture more capital for themselves.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, through the business owner perspective, it's much easier to exploit people if they have to buy cars and be on your road and pay tolls and pay for gas. So, is he arguing? I don't get it. Paved roads don't mean accessibility.
But that's only the first
Like, yes, to Americans, if you're an American watching this, you're like, what do you mean everybody has a car? In other countries, not everybody has a car. And there's a reason for it, because it's very inefficient when it comes to spending your money.
problem the jungles suffer from an economic development standpoint.
We gotta chop all them trees down so we can get that capital.
Arguably, the bigger problem is that agriculture in jungle biomes, just like in deserts, is also very difficult. This is because in the jungle, most of the nutrients that would otherwise reach the soil are stored instead in the abundant living vegetation, dead wood, and decaying leaves. When organic material in the rainforest dies and then decays, it gets recycled so rapidly by the omnipresent insects, fungi, and bacteria that little, if any of their nutrients ever make it down into the soil below, which leaves the soil nearly sterile and atrocious to use for agriculture. So whenever humans come around and slash and burn a rainforest to clear its space out for agriculture, they are usually left with a terrible soil quality that requires massive amounts of fertilizer to actually make it productive. And then if the rainforest wasn't cleared very well, the omnipresent insects, fungi, and bacteria will then attack whatever crops do get grown. And so then that requires a further massive amount of pesticide use to keep from happening. Agriculture in former jungle lands can be productive, but it is also most often an inefficient and expensive process compared with agriculture in more temperate environments that don't require as many inputs to get.
Right, but that's not why people live places. Like, it is why people don't develop places, but that's not why people don't live places.
I just want to see what's in it, buddy.
You have exports.
Uh,
Yo, hey, you want to watch the rest of this video with me? It's kind of weird.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm reacting to it, so that way, I'm recording.
Oh, you want to move down just in case of fuck it. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Okay. Okay. So this is like why, okay. So it's saying why Mexico isn't populated, and like it said like, oh, it's because they don't have roads, so they can't drive cars through the rainforest. And it's like, okay, so let me get your perspective on this, Maxie. What does that sound like?
Stupid.
Yeah, okay.
Because dirt roads exist.
Well, and they're saying, well, paved roads, so that way they can export and import trade. And then in my head, I go, well, why do they need roads for that? Why can't they just use a railroad?
Or aren't they on water? Why can't they use
boats? Or that's not why people don't live there. You know what I mean? It's not because you can't get food there through cars, which isn't how it works anyway.
It's probably just expensive to like mow the land, tear down fucking everything, and nobody wants to fund the project.
Yeah, and why do you want to burn down half the fucking rainforest? Because that's what they'll do. Because it's cheaper to just light it on fire. But yeah, anyway, okay, I'm gonna keep going. I'll pause and say stuff sometimes too.
Forests found across southern Mexico are no exception to this norm. But then, to complicate most of Mexico's ability to conduct agriculture even further, nearly 70% of the country is completely covered by mountains. This makes Mexico one of the most mountainous countries in the world, on a par with Switzerland or Afghanistan for percentage of land covered by mountains. In Mexico's case, these mountains provide numerous negatives and also positives for their potential to economically develop.
Just said nothing, by the way. And numerous negatives and positives, so it exists. Cool. Okay.
The bad side.
Japan's landmass is fucking 80%ish mountains. Like what?
Also, like
this isn't why
you just use Switzerland. You know what I mean? You just use Switzerland in the comparative.
So Switzerland prosperous.
Yeah. Switzerland is one of the wealthiest countries in the world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's just not a it's just not a reason.
One of these things is not like the other. You have Afghanistan, Switzerland, and Mexico, and they're all mountainous landscapes. What's the difference here? Kind of weird. Kind of weird you're saying it like that. Like,
the presence of mountains only amplifies the previous negatives with developing desert and jungle biomes. Mountains are big geographic obstacles and are significantly more labor-intensive
There's a town
to build.
literally right there.
Yeah, you can literally see a town in the photo. I don't even know if this is Mexico. I imagine it's Mexico.
I mean,
also too, we invented dynamite. Like, people were blowing holes in mountains since mountains were able to be blown holes in. Like, that's not the issue.
Infrastructure.
Literally, the issue is infrastructure. Like, he literally just said the word, like the issue is they're not willing to fund infrastructure in order to expand outwards.
Yeah, they'd rather just have businesses, like, come in and create company towns, essentially.
And I mean, that's what they did in, what was it? There was Ford. I think Ford did it. I don't remember what the town was called. There's, like, a Wendigoon video on it where, like, he literally funded a company town in, I want to say Brazil, I don't remember where, and it literally just, like, ran itself into the ground. And they were literally doing what this video wanted, where it was expanding into unused territory.
Yeah.
For, like, car production or something. I don't even remember what it was for.
I mean, that's, like, places, I mean, I don't know. You kind of see, like, similar issues pop up when people try to make company towns in, like, Tijuana. Like, they'll do it in Tijuana and then, like, put an Amazon facility and like in a shanty town and then force everybody to work there. Like, it's just exploitation. It's just going to the people who own the business there. It's just the government can't get the funding or doesn't care about getting the funding. I don't know. I don't know much about.
This is probably a fucking butthole to live in, you know, the rainforest. Like, it's probably just butthole. It probably isn't that fun to try to live in an area that's constantly humid and trying to work around, like, the ever-rising, like, animal and plant population.
Yeah, that shit sucks, even with technology. That shit sucks. Like, even with air conditioning, that shit still sucks. You still gotta go outside.
Or around or under than flatland is. And then mountainous deserts and mountainous jungles, like in northern and southern Mexico, come with all of the negatives to developing deserts and jungles, in addition to the negatives in developing mountains. But across the central strip of Mexico, the mountains rise up higher than they do anywhere else in the country. And they're so high up that they push a huge amount of the land here up and above the usual hot tropical climate and into a more cooler, temperate climate.
Right, but this is where everybody lives. This is where 85% of the population lives. So right? Like, so what are you saying? So because it's a cooler climate.
Is it where they live?
Yeah. No, that's where
that
that outline is 85% of the population lives there.
Let me see. Images. This is all fucking graphs for Mexico's population. Mexico's population.
It was earlier in the video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely all live there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's not mountains that are the problem. It's not mountains. That's not the problem.
Zone. The many high plateaus and valleys in between all of these towering mountains in the center of Mexico offer up large amounts of flatter land in elevations as high as 7,000 feet or above from sea level, high enough to lift them out of the tropical environment.
So he's saying it's like plateaus with large flat areas, but I'm looking at it right now. He's showing pictures of it. That's not flatland.
Meant that the lands would otherwise be in down at lower elevations and into a more temperate biome with cooler temperatures and less humidity, helping to mitigate the presence of
Damn, I'm surprised these don't have sepia tone on them.
Diseases and insects that can be found down in the lower elevations still in the tropics, while providing a better environment to use modern construction materials and techniques in, like concrete and asphalt. At the same time, the soils that can be found within these high temperate valleys of central Mexico are also incredibly fertile and very useful for agriculture because a lot of the mountains around them are in fact volcanoes. You see, beneath the surface, the mountains and volcanoes found in central Mexico roughly correspond to the intersections of the North American Plate, the Cocos Plate, and the Rivera Plate.
Wow.
For millions of years now, both the Rivera and Cocos Plates.
Hey, you telling me that when two mountains either push against each other or separate, when two pieces of lands, I don't get where this is going. This is like, I don't know why you're explaining this. Like, I guess it's to throw info at you so you can't really think about the other stuff. I don't know.
have been subducting beneath the North American plate here, which is what's generated this continuous belt of volcanoes clear across the center of Mexico. While occasionally destructive, volcanoes are also perfect for generating agriculturally useful soils, because every time they erupt, they belch out rich minerals from deep within the earth that eventually settles down into the soils below in the form of ash, acting effectively like a natural fertilizer system. Millions of years worth of eruptions along this belt of volcanoes across central Mexico filled the high valleys and plateaus up in the temperate zone in between their peaks, with rich soils that would make them some of the best and easiest to use available farmland on the planet to grow calorie-intensive grains in. And that's why it shouldn't come as a surprise then that one of the most important grains in human history originally arose within this ideal environment.
Right, but like agriculture can be exported. Like you can move that. That's not why people live here. I mean, it is, but not really. It's not why they stay there.
Maize, otherwise known as corn. This is also why, despite being about 3.5 times larger in overall amounts of land, Mexico only has about the same amount of arable land as France. Only about 12% of Mexico's land is actually arable and suitable for farming, and the vast majority of it is all within these rich volcanic valleys here across the center, where most Mexicans have always lived out their lives. Hundreds of years ago, back in pre-Columbian times, the Valley of Mexico was also home to 5 large lakes and numerous rivers, meaning that not only were the soils very fertile, but there was also plenty of available fresh water for large-scale agriculture. And on top of that, while transportation around mountains is usually very difficult, it's a lot less difficult across the surfaces of calm lakes on boats. And so the lakes in the Valley of Mexico also provided a perfect, cheap transportation method for moving around large amounts of food and other products.
Why does he keep bringing up cars? Like, is this like a American thing, right? It's gotta be, right?
I don't know.
Because you have to have.
I think bringing up cars
expensive.
constantly. I mean, it just makes me, like it's American. But I guess it's just like ease of transportation, and for some reason they think like Americans like car infrastructure and like roadways somehow makes a better system than like railroads or something.
Yeah, like because to me, like
I mean,
there's layers.
I guess like what he's saying is like right.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Well, okay, so there's layers to it. So yes, he's kind of right, because you also need manufacturing for the vehicles, or you need importation of the vehicles. And then you also need whatever's needed to pave the roads. You need the workers to pave the roads. And then you have to have some type of tax system on those roads. If it's already implemented in that area, then I guess that's fine. But then you have to have like a surplus of income to afford a personal vehicle to transport things.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's just advocating for personal vehicle usage at this point, like because companies don't use vehicles right now, even in America. Like they might use like U-Hauls or something like that every now and then for like local ports, like local
or like 18-wheelers,
like that, but they're not like they're using railways.
Yeah,
like America's still using an outdated railway system, which is better than roads.
Well, and like boats, like 50% of our imports come in through California, through a boat, through a bottlenecked.
Yeah, it's almost like railways and boat transportation are overworked, and maybe there was a reason why there was strikes happening before the Ohio the nuclear bomb.
before Ohio turned into Fallout New Vegas. Yeah. All right. I'm going to keep playing it. It's weird because he keeps bringing up the idea of roads, and it's like, it makes sense if you think that there are manufacturers in Mexico who are already making thousands of millions of cars, and people can afford that there. Like,
well, it's also kind of like, is it really so steep as to you can't even carve out a pathway along the mountains?
No, I don't.
Like on the mountainside.
I don't believe that. Like if China
sure
and America can do it, like every country can literally. I don't know. It's like tunnels are like a common thing. So I don't know.
It should also come as a little surprise that.
I mean, it's dangerous, but
Well, I don't know, like, it doesn't really bring up the fact why Mexico is empty either, because they've had years upon years of expanding their, like, economic success.
Yeah.
To where they could, in theory, just branch out and have, like, industry and rather than agriculture on the sides.
Yeah, that's
but America's fucked them out of that one so bad.
Yeah, like America, like, I mean, this is going to be a hot take, but even Spain.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, real hot take there. Like, I don't know. It just seems, and they're also like, they're not landlocked, but they are landlocked. Like, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing to like not bring up that aspect of it. Like countries like exploiting the people that live there.
Landlocked. They're landlocked in the sense that we literally went and fucked over the Panama. Panama's further south actually, but like.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is like they're landlocked in the sense of like America owns all of this land, all of this earth. And then this side is like, okay, you can use this side. And if we don't
do anything with them, of course they can't.
Yeah, exactly. What are they going to do? All the exports that come in are going to go in right here. Or they're going to go on this side up to California.
The region of
Anyway. And they're going to go not up, but around up top. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's weird.
Mesoamerica was destined to become one of only 6 of humanity's known cradles of civilization, places where humans developed an agricultural civilization independently of the knowledge of any other civilization. More than 1,000 years before the arrival of Columbus and the Spaniards, an unknown civilization had already developed the city of Teotihuacan within this ideal environment. At that city's height during the ancient era at the same time of the Roman Empire in Europe, it likely reached an urban population of at least 125,000 people, which not only made it the most populous city in the Americas, it also made it at least the 6th most populous city in the entire world at the time. Thus, the core of Mexico's population today—
That's cracked. That's bog.
—has really been the core of Mexico's population for thousands of years now. When the Spanish arrived in Mexico in the 16th century, the Valley of Mexico was already one of the most densely populated places in the world. The Aztec Empire counted some 6 million inhabitants, nearly on a par with the population of the whole Spanish Empire itself. While the Aztecs' capital, Tenochtitlan, high up in the Valley of Mexico, may have numbered as many as 200,000 urban inhabitants, making it a larger city at that time than any city found in Europe. After the Spaniards destroyed Tenochtitlan, Mexico City was—
Oh my god. Oh my god, he just glossed over that.
I wonder, so why didn't they expand after the Spanish killed them?
That's crazy. This seems a little landlocked. You know what damn. I wonder why they all stayed in one area. It's almost like colonization exists.
Was built in its place over the ruin.
What the fuck? That's crazy. He glossed over that like it was a fucking Minecraft advancement, dude.
And so the area remained the center of political—
Lil Bro said after Mexico was established by wiping out a 6 million population area.
And cultural life in Mexico. But after millions of indigenous people died from the diseases and violence that the Spaniards—
Okay, to start with diseases. To start with diseases, I get it. But to not start with violence almost implies something there. Okay.
But after millions of indigenous people died from the diseases and violence that the Spaniards brought, the Valley of Mexico would never recover its pre-Columbian population again for another 4 centuries until the early 1900s. Now, more than 500 years later after the conquest, Mexico City once again ranks among the world's largest and most significant megacities, with a metropolitan population of more than 22 million people, making it the 6th most populous urban area in the world and the largest metropolitan region found anywhere outside of Asia, pretty much just like it had been for centuries before the Spanish conquest. But the core of Mexico City exists at an elevation of around 7,800 feet above sea level, far higher than any other city that's anywhere near to that same level of population. For the sake of comparison, Mexico City's elevation is on a par with the ski resort found in Aspen, high up in the Rockies of Colorado. Of the top 10 largest cities in Mexico, 4 of them are at elevations beyond 7,000 feet. 3 more are beyond 5,000 feet, and
Do you think we'd pass out if we went there?
No.
You think your lungs can handle it?
Yeah. I mean, we've been to mountains before.
That's true.
2 more are beyond 3,000 feet. Big cities in the United States cannot be found anywhere near to these same kinds of elevations. There is only 1 city in the entirety of the United States with a population greater than 100,000 that can be found above 6,000 feet. Colorado Springs. And every single city in the United States with a population of more than 1 million people exists beneath 3,000 feet in elevation, less than half the elevation of Mexico City that has tens of millions of people. And this is where we get to the cons of having so many of your people very high up in the mountains like Mexico.
What do you think the con is?
I don't even know. I don't know. The con of being high up, you're more oxygenated.
More sunlight?
You're darker skin toned because you're.
Is that where this video is going? You think that video is going?
Oh.
I don't know. Real life lore. I don't know.
While the mountains provide the only flat and easily arable valleys high up in the more temperate zone the country has got, they also make transportation in between all of the valleys and for many of the valleys
Why do they think this?
Dude, what the fuck?
The coasts a lot more challenging. Mexico City and Tenochtitlan before it exists more than 7,000 feet.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Colorado Springs doesn't have any problems.
Like, it has a lot of problems, but it's not.
No, I mean, like,
transportation to get there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they have public transportation that works perfectly fine.
Up above sea level, despite only being around 200 miles away from the ocean. By comparison, Kansas City in the US exists at less than 1/7 of that elevation, while being more than twice as far away from a large body of water. These huge heights in Mexico mean that the rivers beginning up in the mountains flowing down to the ocean have very steep gradients and very strong currents, which ultimately means that there isn't even a single naturally navigable river in the entirety of the country. That meant that there was no possible way for people to transport themselves or their goods for cheap on rivers between the core of where Mexico's population can exist and the ocean, leaving the only possible methods for transport and trade with the greater outside world to more expensive options like roads and eventually railways and airplanes. The location around Veracruz on Mexico's coastal lowlands on the Gulf of Mexico proved to be the only suitable place in the pre-industrial era to establish a major port in the country at. It is strategically only 200 miles away from the core of Mexico City and formerly Tenochtitlan, and it has the only natural harbor that can be found for hundreds of miles all along Mexico's almost entirely flat and exposed coastline with the Gulf. As such, Veracruz was destined.
What was that?
Why couldn't they just make more? He just said it's entirely flat coastline. The only reason they're not making more coastal cities is literally just because there's something preventing them from doing so. Yeah. So what is preventing them?
Well, I don't know. The only way they can transport is with expensive options like roads and railroads and planes. But like railroads are the cheapest option. Like, they're legitimately just the cheapest option.
I mean, it's the only reason why, like, we use railroads in America is because they're fucking cheap.
Yeah, it was an accident. We accidentally did something good.
Destined to become the most significant port in the country before the Industrial Revolution, and it continues to be Mexico's most significant port on its east coast on the Gulf. But at the same time, Veracruz has also been successfully used as a staging ground by hostile outside invaders to capture and occupy Mexico City from on 3 separate occasions.
I think we're getting to the root of the problem.
Literally, all it's saying is it's not a problem being in the mountains. It's a problem that once you have access to the fucking mountains, everybody else is trying to kill Mexico.
Yeah, I think it's literally like Oh, well, the problem is that it's been colonized a bunch of times by outsiding invaders.
By Cortez and the Spaniards in the 16th century, and by the Americans and the French alike in the 19th century.
Yeah,
so
the evil people came in and stopped them from expanding again. Like
so a bunch of Europeans came in and I don't know how
they can't expand.
How is this video not about that? How is it not about that? That's been the issue brought up like 7 times.
Mountains around Mexico's core provide an element of protection from external attacks, but they have also historically kept Mexican power contained and away from the coasts. Thus, unable to project significant power into the oceans, Mexican states in the past have struggled to prevent large hostile maritime powers from landing on their shores and marching into their mountain fortress.
So just America and France.
So America, France, and Spain had tons of artillery and weaponry to come and invade a country, and that country was ill-prepared to be bombarded by foreign invaders that they had no idea existed beforehand. Crazy.
In the center. The control of Veracruz and the coastal lowlands around it is thus imperative to the safety of any Mexican state.
Right.
And sure enough, Veracruz was Mexico's most significant port for centuries prior to the 20th century. But connecting this crucial port at Veracruz at sea level up to the core in Mexico City more than 7,000 feet higher proved to be an enormous challenge to actually overcome, even though the distance as the crow flies was only 200 miles. The two cities were never even successfully connected by a railroad.
Why is that?
Until 1873, finally opening up transport to and from the population core to the ocean by rail. But by that same time, with their significantly flatter, lower, and easier to develop lands, the United States had already built well over 50,000—
You're the United States! You're the United States! You're the richest country in the world! You are literally— you have Andrew Carnegie! You literally just invaded a country to take all of its resources!
Miles of their own railroads, 200 times more length of track than existed between Mexico City and Veracruz, and thus
let's
opening up
just destabilize an infrastructure than expect them to have as much infrastructure as the next country over.
Yeah, I wonder why Mexico had a problem with that, with the last 3 invasions it had.
Significantly more lands to people and trade than what was remotely possible in Mexico. And
why are they saying that like it's a flex? You know what I mean? They're like, look at all America did, while Mexico could only get 1 railroad done.
It's like
it's actually the mountains' problem. Even though they could build a railway between Mexico City and Mexico in 1870, it was because it was too steep and mountainous. It wasn't because we kept killing them.
It wasn't because people came in and kept trying to colonize the area.
Infrastructure.
That had nothing to do with that. It's because roads, like, you need like cars, you know?
Being in a constant war might, it doesn't have anything to do with your access to transportation, public services.
Holy shit. I just can't. I don't.
Structure links between the capital and Mexico's greatest pre-industrial port. It has also always been difficult to build out infrastructure links between the capital and its own valley and all the other major population centers in their own
Why has it always been difficult?
Separate valleys. In reality, Mexico functions a lot more like a splintered mosaic of patched together autonomous valleys.
I wonder why that is.
I
wonder. Holy shit, dude. This is 29 minutes. This is a 29-minute video, and they haven't addressed anything they've said in the video of, like, why.
I mean, yeah, he's right. They function autonomously. They don't really have interconnected parts.
Damn, that's crazy. I wonder why that is.
This is why I don't like educational content on YouTube a lot of the time, is because they say shit like this, and they don't literally just spell it out for the average viewer.
Yeah.
Because, take, BreadTube, shit like ContraPoints and stuff, they say shit, and they try to push you towards something that is in the right direction, but they're being so dumb about it that many people can interpret it in any way.
Yeah,
like this video is going to make people interpret this like fact as a like, oh, it's because it's mountainous terrain.
Oh yeah,
no, it's not because of mountainous terrain.
Yeah, Mexico's just
it's
too
not because
hard to build
the terrain's too arid when it's like near the port cities. Like they could have a fishing industry on the coastline.
It don't
and they
make
could be
sense.
like they could be a huge naval power because they control half the fucking coast of the Gulf of Mexico, and they have all the fucking water down below like California. Like they could be a completely huge port area of fishing and stuff on the water. The reason why they aren't is because they literally just showed America, Spain, and France coming in and reaming them. We came in and reamed these people who didn't realize we were going to. So they couldn't build up an infrastructure that could stop it.
Yeah, it's like just hitting reset on the civilization button like every couple of years. Just being like, why can't it just build more roads? It's like switching hands in government. I don't understand. I mean,
I guess you could compare it to something like China, where China has a bunch of the road infrastructure. But like they were constantly changing hands all the time, and you could be like, yeah, because Mexico is on the mountainous terrain, that's why China, like even China has mountainous terrain.
Yeah.
Right? Even China's like hugely mountainous.
Yeah.
But you could say the difference between Mexico and China is that the terrain is just so much worse, alongside the fact because like that other countries were invading. Because China had tons of invasions within itself.
Yeah, and well, China was able to, after Chiang Kai-shek was able to stabilize, like after being able to push Chiang Kai-shek out, was able to stabilize. And then that was like it. It was mainly proxy wars. Am I wrong?
I don't remember. I didn't really pay attention.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after Chiang Kai-shek, it was just like proxy wars. It was wars off of their land, like for the main part. Or like cold wars, quote unquote. Whatever. But all right. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going. Yeah, it's just weird.
When was?
Huh? What was that?
I'm saying when Chiang Kai-shek was.
Oh,
well, that was 1880s, like 1900s. Like that's way later. When did China get railroads?
That's more recent.
1870s.
Yeah. It's not as far back
around
as
around the time when Kai-shek came about, like was born, is when
Yeah, but also
so they were building the infrastructure at the same time as, because they said the 1870s too, right, for Mexico.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
actually,
they were an established civilization with trades already in place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's easier when you have like a civilization that's not constantly
being pushed back.
Yeah, usurped. Could I say that? I don't know. I don't know if that's the correct term, but
no, because they were usurped like later.
Yeah. Well, here.
A single centralized state. And it's always been that way for millennia. Without any navigable rivers to use for cheap, it is difficult and expensive
to use for cheap. That's also another thing. What do you mean by to use for cheap, to use the rivers? Because he said they couldn't use the rivers because they were too rough. Now you can't use them for cheap. Could you set up dams on them? Could you set up like water controlling? Like, or are they too steep? I don't know.
Expensive.
I feel like these are like, I feel like part of what he's saying is counteracting what he already said earlier.
To build roads or railroads to snake through the many mountains and connect one of the high temperate valleys to another high temperate valley or the ocean. That ultimately means that it's difficult in Mexico to generate a surplus of excess capital, because inexpensive transportation options that would otherwise generate capital just don't really exist like they do elsewhere. Building.
Why? Do you get what I'm saying? Why?
Yeah, like, no, even Mexico was 20 years before China for the first railroad.
So they were even ahead of schedule.
Yeah, so like, one of the places in the world that we consider like being really heavily infrastructured in railroads started after Mexico, and Mexico didn't expand. Like, what percent of China is mountain? Us 70%.
So it's literally the like, literally like the exact same
hills,
percentage.
mountains, and plateaus is 70%.
That's still the exact same mountainous region. Like that's the same percentage of Afghanistan is like 75%. Mexico's like 70 something percent. Switzerland, 70 something percent.
Building out the transportation infrastructure required for trade requires a lot of capital to start with, which is difficult to acquire in Mexico because of the lack of cheap transportation to begin with.
No. That you didn't have capital in Mexico because America, France, and Spain came and ruined the capital because they took what was in Mexico.
I feel like I'm going
is that
crazy.
so hard?
I feel like I'm taking
so hard to
crazy
grasp?
pills. That's so crazy. That is insane to think that the reason that they don't have capital is because they don't have roads. That's like the dumb. It's like you ask a 5-year-old, like why, like, and then they're like, well, why don't they have roads? And they're like, well, because they don't have capital. Like that's not a.
Why don't they have roads? Because they don't have capital. Why don't they have capital?
Why don't they have capital? Because they don't have roads. That's exactly what he's saying.
That's actually really funny.
Bro, I don't understand. That's like a 5-year. That's like, oh, shit, dude.
No, it's circular logic.
Yeah,
you
it
can't
is.
have roads without capital, and you can't have capital without roads. They're hand in hand. God, what the fuck, dude?
You can't lay the foundation before they lay the. I was trying to reference The Last of Us. I couldn't remember. We can't pour until they lay the foundation. We can't lay the foundation until they pour. There you go. Something like that, right? I don't know. I don't remember. Pedro Pascal is based. And Daddy.
Like, I don't...
Anyway.
Like, it's just weird. Like, at first I thought you were overblowing it.
No,
but he keeps saying it.
That's what I'm saying. He said it like 5 times in the first like 10 minutes, dude.
Which most often means that
I understand.
You thought
why
I was overblowing it.
No. I thought like.
Here, you talk. I'm gonna go get a Pepsi. Keep talking.
Me? I don't want to keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking. I'm gonna get a Pepsi. It's gonna be like 10 seconds.
Okay, whatever. Like you can't blame a lack of infrastructure, like, on the fact that they don't have infrastructure. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. People are weird. Like, instead of looking at the obvious problem of, hey, like, these foreign nations attack, and it kind of like destabilize the economy, and before they could even come back in their own terms, they were attacked again.
Yeah, it feels like the dumbest or simplest way to pretend like an issue didn't happen, or to like not address it at all, like to not be like, oh, they invaded Mexico.
Because like you can look at America, and even though we had like the French-American War and stuff like that, the majority of our population wasn't at war. Like,
yeah, well, no,
like
yes,
they were still living. Like we were still doing stuff. If we attacked Mexico City and that plateau and that one port, they didn't have anything else.
Yeah, that's
basically what was going on. So behind the scenes, like we had no real wars on like American soil outside of our self-imposed ones.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a foreign nation attacking, it was literally us fighting ourselves. It's a little different.
Or us like going in like Texas and like declaring we own land. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's not American, that's not American soil either at that point. That's you going to the fucking Mexico's turf and then taking their stuff.
That's so crazy.
I don't know.
I feel like I'm going insane, dude. I was watching this video and I was literally like, I can't wait for this video to be over because like it just, like at the beginning, the first 5 minutes of it was just explaining like how American population and Mexican population moved like very little, but America expanded to California and Florida.
Yeah, we sent death squads to go do it for the rich people.
Well, that's what. Well, also on top of that, we gave incentives from our government to go to California. We still have incentives to move to California.
Like the Spanish.
Yeah, like they were talking about how people moved to Texas, and Texas was still one of the most populated areas. I was like, well, brother, oil's been there for millions of years. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
What was the shit? What's the war called with, like, we weren't at war with Mexico, but we kept allowing the Native Americans to go down and invade Mexican soil, and then we wouldn't allow them to attack back because they were on our property.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking. I don't know.
I forgot what the name of it is.
Yeah, but I remember learning about that.
It's called the Apache-Mexico Wars in 1600. Yeah, so, and guess when the war between the Mexicans and the Apache were really bad? Oh, does it say 1831 to 1850s?
Wait, really?
Yep.
That's nuts.
Like, it was intense between the 1831 to 1850. Thereafter, operations against the Apache conceded with the Apache War of the United States, such as during the Victoria campaign.
That's
so literally,
crazy.
during the time when they made their first railroad, they just came off the tail end of, like, the Apache War.
Of American aggression?
Yeah.
Like of U.S. aggression? Yeah. That's crazy.
There's like, how do you say, like, how do you make a video about infrastructure within, like, a country and not take into account any, like, actual foreign powers as, like,
major world events?
Factor? Like,
yeah. Here, I'll keep playing
they've been fighting from 1500s. Like, these two people, they hated each other, evidently. I mean, it's obvious. It makes sense. Like, they're living near the same land, and they both want power.
I don't get how you can't, like, bring up any of that, though. I don't know. Maybe he saves it all in the last 10 minutes.
The large amount.
The last 10 minutes.
Amounts of capital required to build the transportation infrastructure must come from either foreign investment or from entities that already happen.
The United States citizen that was involved in this stuff, resident in Sonora, who led an expedition against the Apache in April 1837. That white people love to be named John Johnson. Let me just say that. Let me get that out of here.
Damn, you telling me John Johnson? What's another one? John Smith. You telling me John Smith did this? Jane Doe, John Smith, and John Johnson all came over here to help invade another country? Damn, that's crazy. John Johnson. Jesus Christ.
To have a lot of capital. Simultaneously, this geographic reality also makes it difficult for any centralized authority in Mexico City to project power and influence from beyond their immediate valley to the other scattered and separated parts of the country. And it makes it difficult for any of the temperate valleys in the center to conduct trade with the parts of Mexico to the north and the south in the deserts or the jungles, which only further exacerbates their already major challenges to economic development and supporting large numbers of people. In this way, Mexico struggles with very similar geographic problems as Afghanistan.
No! Afghanistan has fine infrastructure. We just bomb it! We just bomb them! I don't know.
Forever war. It's okay. Yeah, just compare Mexico to a country that is literally in a forever war. Because
Mexico was on a forever war.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They're just comparing forever war countries. Like
the Mexican-American War, and then this, like, the Apache-Mexico War, like, Spanish invasion, the French invasion. Like, oh, come on, man. No. Why is this not talked about outside of that one passing 30 seconds?
No, I'm sure he'll patch it up in the next 9 minutes.
Both are extremely mountainous countries that are difficult to enforce power across.
What do you mean difficult to enforce power? Because we seem to have done a pretty good job at it before we got
from a centralized point.
Oh, like, from a centralized point. Yeah, so like if you live there.
Kabul or Mexico.
It's really hard to enforce power in a centralized point when we, I don't know, maybe go in and attack those centralized points.
Why do this? Why do a video about this and not touch on anything related to the country that could possibly keep its capital low? Possibly.
Mexico City. The many valleys in between the mountains where the people actually live are separated from all of the other valleys by mountains and connected only by narrow choke points, through which expensive roads and railways can be constructed, but also in which local powers can easily blockade or control. Both geographies encourage and enable high degrees of localized.
It's just the nasty parts of Mexico stopping Mexico's good parts from being.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
That's what's happening.
Oh, shit. Dude, my third eye just opened. That's crazy.
Autonomy.
So if we think about, like, the nasty part of Mexico, let's go back to what could have possibly made those
parts
nasty politicians.
I think I might have an idea. I don't know. Something about Europe's coming to my mind.
In the regions separated by mountains from the capital, and both geographies prevent centralized power from adequately being able to police and enforce the rule of law everywhere.
Oh, yeah, we need the police.
What?
In order to enforce good infrastructure. Shut the hell up, man.
Such geographies have therefore given rise to autonomous warlord-style factions.
What?
Okay. All right.
I don't want to finish this.
Okay, this
dude doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Warlord factions. Like these people right here, like all of these people. I guarantee you he doesn't know what any of these signs say. I don't, but I guarantee you he just took a random video of, is this even Afghanistan? You tell me. You tell me.
In the beginning, I thought it was just a misguided attempt to, like, try to say why, like, Mexican expansion hasn't went into the rainforests. Now it's literally just
propaganda.
Anti-Afghani propaganda.
Anti-Afghani, anti any country that isn't European. That's what it seems like right now.
Well, like, no, you see, Chase, they're not a good nation because they don't have infrastructure, and they don't have infrastructure because they don't have roads, and they don't have roads because they don't have good infrastructure. So it's really hard to say that
makes
they're
so
like
much
a prominent
sense.
nation.
That makes so much sense. I see this entire time, I thought it was because of the bombing. But now that you said it like that, I thought it was from the nonstop invasion.
The nonstop wars.
Yeah.
No. Like, when you are at war, you make a lot of money. Like, did you ever think about how much money America made during the Afghani war?
Oh, yeah, so they probably made just as much, right?
Like, Americans really
maybe
were
a little
eating.
bit less.
Americans were eating good during that one.
Dude, I thought it was, you know what? After you said the reason they don't have roads is because they don't have money, and the reason they don't have money is because they don't have roads. After you said that, after he said it, it really sunk in that time. Thank you so much, man.
Like the Taliban in Afghanistan and the many autonomous.
He also said Taliban. That's just funny. I've never heard it pronounced like that by an American.
Like, well, the thing is, like, the
Taliban.
You can't. What? No. Why did the, like, you're going into a different turf? Why did the Taliban rise into power? It's because we funded them.
Yeah, like, because of the brave soldiers of the Mujahideen.
Like, you can't go out of your way and ignore the fact that a foreign nation did this. Foreign nations are the problem here.
No, dude, look. No, they have the solution to the problem right here. It's in the video right now. You see it?
Police. We need police. We need police states.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need more police. Who cares if it's corrupt or not? We just need more of them, you know? Who cares?
I agree.
Yeah.
Tells.
I wonder what happens when you arm a bunch of police officers with AK-47s.
And give them the incentive to stop any rebelling whatsoever within your nation.
I wonder, you know what? Now that we're talking about this, you know, I always wondered, did the roads make the Taliban, or do you think it was the lack of money for the roads? Or do you think the lack of roads made the lack of money that made the Taliban? Not the AK-47s that were given to them.
that operate.
No, it has to be the geographically unusable resources within the area.
Bro, you can't even
oil. Who
pave
the
here.
fuck uses
You
that?
can't even pave here. So what you need are cop cars.
Across Mexico, largely with impunity from the central government in Mexico City. As discussed previously, Mexico's borders in the south with
My head hurts. That makes me laugh so hard.
Mexico
dude.
City. Do you think... Okay, sorry. This doesn't even extend into America. Do you think that cops within, Delaware have jurisdiction over people within, Virginia? Is that what he's trying to say?
Yeah.
Do you think Washington, D.C. police actually have jurisdiction over anybody else within the entirety of the United States?
You forgot we police by elevation. So if you're on a flatland, that's flatland police. But if you're in the mountains, that's mountain police, okay? And they can go anywhere in the country to police you.
You do not need one centralized police unit in order to maintain... I don't even know what he's saying. Control? Do you want control over these fucking people? What's wrong with you?
I know what he's saying. I know what he's saying. He wants a centralized police force armed to the teeth, otherwise known as military.
But yeah, I mean,
to control the populace.
Just wants a military police to control it.
Yeah, he just wants a police state. Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. This doesn't solve the problem. We actively anti-propaganda police states like North Korea. That's what we claim they are.
Yeah.
So why on earth would you be advocating for this shit? It doesn't make a sense. It doesn't make a lick of sense.
Because
even if you were an American who's trying to save face on our atrocities within Mexico and how we completely destabilized their economy multiple times from the 1400s to now, not 1400s, 1600s to now, you gotta be
a
libertarian, right?
Brother,
this is libertarian ideology.
I don't know what it is. It's real life lore, so it's gamers, so it might be libertarian. It might be disguised libertarian ideology.
Well, it doesn't.
But
I mean, it's got to be, right? Because they want.
It's not though, because it's a police state. So I don't know.
But they love police.
I mean, I know I know they do, but in terms of saying what this is propagandizing, it just seems like it's just military. Police funding. It's funny that you think more police would solve the issue for no money. You know what I mean? If
what makes you think that if police branches within America could be corrupt, what makes you think that multiple overarching police branches within Mexico wouldn't also be corrupt?
And what also makes you think it would generate money? For what roads?
Yeah, when was the last time the police force gave me a new road?
That's
never.
what I'm saying. Literally, your tax money goes to paying for police officers. So if you increase your police officer count, if you increase the population of police in your country, you're paying for more police. You're not paying for anything else.
You're not paying for infrastructure. You're paying for people to harass those who are actively participating in making infrastructure and using it.
To meet their status, to meet their quotas, to be somewhat not a sinkhole of money, they have to harass tell people would be tickets.
Not every police state, police force in the world is like America. No, it's the end result. When you have people who are under the jurisdiction of a greater power, like Mexico City at this point, is what he's presuming.
Yeah.
They're literally going to be working towards the end goals of Mexico City and not the average person. They're not there to help you.
It's okay, so to explain that further, under capitalism, if you have any type of police that can generate income or control the populace in order to generate income, they will always...
terrible.
Yeah, they will always 100% of the time lead to a police state, because their main incentive is to generate and work for the businesses. That's their main incentive.
It's literally just to perpetuate their own existence.
Yeah,
right?
it's just to get taxpayers to pay them money. And every time you bring up that you might want to get rid of the 70,000 tanks that LA has for some reason, like I'm exaggerating, but if you don't want LA to have a bazooka, like LAPD to have a bazooka, and you're like, yeah, I don't know, I don't think taxpayer money should go to that, you're going to get more cops. You're just going to get more of them because that's what they make money off of. So like in an area where it's already the problem that there are parts of the town that are like, I would say criminal, like, you know, nasty parts of the town, of the country. You're not going to solve that by putting in somebody with the exact same incentives to quell that unrest. What does that do? Like if a gang's only objective, or if a, like, I wouldn't say a gang because that like says that it's like some organized crime or whatever at the same level that like a police state would be. But like, and some parts probably are, like some parts of every country are, but like, what's the difference? A police state and nasty people being there, which I don't know what that means, like the nasty parts of it.
He's saying, well, in particular in this video, he's literally saying that they're going against the government, so they're nasty. Like, that's the only thing you can take from it, because that's the only thing I guess an average American hears is that the Taliban's bad. You know, I mean, obviously they are. Yeah, but obviously, like, it's literally just saying that these people don't actually have clear motives outside of just being evil.
Yeah.
They have a goal in mind. Yeah, and the goal isn't for complete political unrest forever. Yeah. It's to get into the position of power in order to put in their ideology because they think it'll be better. Right. That's the whole goal of different ideologies.
That's the part of the Taliban that I didn't understand. Mexico doesn't have some like religious organization like as its figurehead being the Taliban and like war leader or whatever he said, or whatever the fuck he said. Like the war groups in Mexico
are gangs.
Yeah, they're gangs. They're like militias.
They're gangs that were funded by like the US in order to exist.
Yeah, and they help their population some degrees, and sometimes they're insane. Like most gangs or like loosely organized units. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand. I don't understand what they're getting at.
Well, I mean, it's obvious what they're getting at.
No, I mean saying... like in a even in a save face, like even in a like.
Well, no, I think they just genuinely believe this. It's not trying to save face. It's they literally were brought up on like something like American propaganda. Researched it very little.
That's fucking insane. To make videos on this topic.
Kind of glossed over the fact that, you know, like maybe there's been like multiple wars here to actually destabilize the economy and prevent movement within your own borders.
And then like, recommend police.
Yeah, like, I don't see, like, literally the only thing I can think of is it's libertarian, like, ideology, somewhat at play. Like, but maybe I'm wrong, it could be some other form of ideology, because they generally just want police states to, like, you know, maintain shit like the NAP. So it makes sense as to why they would be advocating heavily for this. But
fuck it. I don't get it. I'm gonna let it play out. I'm gonna let this thing bang.
Guatemala and Belize are underpopulated and covered by thick rainforests and jungles, with only 8 paved roads across them. It is simply impossible for the Mexican government
He won't let the roads go, dude.
Adequately police and patrol the entire thing.
Why do you need the police and patrol Guatemala and Belize on roads? And why do you think police are going to solve the problems of Guatemala and Belize?
And that makes it the perfect location
this
for
isn't even Mexico,
illicit
right?
substances.
What is going on? He's talking about smuggling shit now. Is that why Mexico's empty? What the fuck is going on? This literally in the last 9 minutes just turned into propaganda.
And weapons across, coming in from Central and South America. Simultaneously, Mexico's border in the north with the United States runs for more than 2,000 miles across almost sparsely populated barren territory.
They can get something between Mexico all the way up to the United States. but they can't get things from the corner of Mexico to the middle of Mexico.
No. Because drugs, Maxie, you should know this. Drugs are just lighter. Drugs and contraband, that's all lighter, dude. Weaponry, that's light. That's light work.
That is separated by hundreds of miles of almost empty mountainous desert between.
That's crazy. He keeps playing this graphic of like drugs and like guns going into the US from like Belize.
It and the core of Mexico's population up in the high temperate valleys of the center. Just like their borders in the south, the Mexican government could never possibly hope to police or patrol the entire stretch of their side of the border.
This is nuts.
And why should they?
This is nuts.
No, this isn't a problem with Mexico. This is a problem with corrupt
the United
government.
States. And then the problem with the corrupt government. Yeah.
This has nothing to do with their fucking expansion into their own territory.
What the fuck? What does that have to do with their population or being empty?
Most of it is simply too remote and too far away from Mexico's most major population centers in the middle of the country.
Graphic, dude.
But remember that population density map of Mexico we used from before? It's interesting to look at it again now with all this context.
No, it's not. You didn't explain anything. You didn't explain anything.
Most Mexicans live where you'd expect them to in the ideal agricultural environments of the center. There are lots of pockets of extremely high population density surrounded by almost nothing that can be found all along the Mexico-US border in the north.
What is he trying to say? That it's because of the US that there's populations there?
And what's even more interesting,
like a fucking river or something.
Yeah, not because
that line was that line is literally what they were fighting over. With the
is that all of these Mexican cities along the northern border have significantly higher populations than their American counterparts on the other side of them do.
Damn, that's crazy. It's almost like people live there and America wanted it for landmass. That's crazy.
Tijuana, Juarez, Nuevo Laredo, Reynosa, and Matamoros all have much higher populations than the American cities immediately adjacent to them to the north, which has a lot to do with institutional reasons in addition to...
What does that mean? Institutional. It's institutional reasons. What is? Because America has oil in Texas, and that's all they care about is extracting minerals from the earth, and then the rest of the United States of America is just barren because there's no company town there to like force people to work for it. Like I don't know what you're saying.
Geographic reasons. It might seem strange to say, but Mexico's greatest geographic advantage compared to a place with similar geography,
that's some sepia tone. I knew it was coming.
Like Afghanistan, is that, unlike Afghanistan, Mexico is placed directly adjacent to the United States.
Okay.
The single largest consumer market on the planet. As such, beginning in the 1960s, the Mexican and American governments began entering into a series of understandings known as the Maquiladora Agreement. Essentially, the agreement stipulated that factories that produced goods within Mexico's border towns could export those goods duty-free right across the border into the United States. Big corporations,
so America exploiting them. Okay, cool.
Immediately recognized the opportunity this provided. They could set up factories immediately across from the United States, take advantage of the comparatively much cheaper Mexican labor to build their products, and then transport those cheaply made products duty-free right across into the United States, and take advantage of America's enormous highway.
Okay, hold on.
No, he's going back to the fucking road! Jump!
Now he's saying that Mexico benefits from having people make their workers work for nothing.
System to ship them
because we have highways.
Pretty much anywhere in the country on the backs of trucks. Thousands of these border factories.
Most of our imports are trains and fucking boats.
Is this Henry Ford's grandson?
What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Is this Ford's grandson himself? Holy shit.
Our maquiladoras were set up in the decades that followed. And with them, tens to hundreds of thousands of new factory jobs were created that lured in workers from Mexico's historic core across the center of the country. This is...
it lured in workers.
They lured them in because there was no other job opportunities.
And they did that on purpose. They literally forced you to work underpaid, overworking, because your boss in Mexico made millions organizing how to extract your labor, and you get none of the profit because they were paid a lump sum by some business in the United States.
Is the reason
and the United States government.
Why all of Mexico's border towns are so much more heavily populated than their American counterparts.
So you're saying all of these are labor camps?
Are, and a large part of the reason why, compared to the 1895 census in Mexico, a slightly higher percentage of
Damn, you're saying Tijuana with its fucking shantytown Amazon factory? Oh my god, dude.
Mexicans
I can't.
They live outside of the central historic core than they had back then. Eventually, the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, that was signed in 1994, expanded the system even further, from being limited only to the Mexican border towns to the entirety of Mexico, enabling factories anywhere in the country to export their goods duty-free.
So the white people can use anything in Mexico and easily transport it from Mexico to the United States. But they couldn't because
they can't do anything in the United States because we have laws to protect our civilians against unfair labor treatment in the fucking workplace. That's insane. This is insane. How can you say this and not say this is insane at the same time?
To the United States. But the proximity of the border towns to the US market, along with nearby major cities like Hermosillo, Chihuahua, and Monterrey, ensured that they would remain more financially competitive.
Bro, they have a town named Chihuahua? Bro, have they heard about the dogs?
Shut up.
I'm sorry, that was dumb.
And the factories
I'm sorry, Maxie.
Further away in the Mexican core, since they could continue exporting goods to the United States quicker and for cheaper. In economic terms, all of these cities operate more closely to being satellite cities of the United States, rather than an extension of the core of Mexico up in the Central Highlands. Mexico's friendly relationship with the United States.
Very friendly relationship. Look at that man right there.
Friendly.
Jump scare. Sorry, trigger warning.
Has ultimately turned out to be the country's best answer at overcoming its harsh geographic limitations.
No! Wait, what do you mean it's its best answer? That's not its best answer. That's just being exploited by another country. What the f are you on about, dog?
And the maquiladoras aren't the only consequence. Ever since the shale gas revolution in the United States that began in the early 2010s, more and more natural gas pipelines have been getting built out from the US to Mexico. As of the production of this video, 17 natural gas pipelines already
Damn, so you're saying 17 natural gas pipelines can make it through all of that mountainous region, connecting all of the cities?
Exist spanning across the US-Mexico border that collectively export nearly 1/3 of all the natural gas the United States exports abroad.
What the
in turn,
fuck,
providing
dude?
more than 3/4 of Mexico's entire
Look at
this
that.
map doesn't tell you that America's fucking evil.
Bro, this is like a text.
This isn't good for Mexico.
Bro.
This isn't why.
Look at that.
This is a good reason why Mexico's empty.
U.S. natural gas exports 33% of Mexico's oil. But don't worry, they import it back to Mexico.
Higher supply of natural gas. Now, this abundant and cheap supply of natural gas coming in from the United States is
abundant and cheap. He just said abundant and cheap with natural gas. Very funny.
Doing two things. First, it is effectively turbocharging the Mexican
4.4 million
economy
views.
Yes, dude, this is huge. Yes.
By providing a
What's wrong with this?
All
this is why America's fucking dumb, because they have people like this.
Because they don't have any fucking media laws taking shit like this down when they realize how fucking hurtful this shit is. I mean, but you know, it's fine. As long as you put up infographics and shit, you could be the next fucking Breitbart in America or whatever.
Natural gas.
This is just a theory.
But that's just a theory. A fascist theory.
The United States
An imperialism theory.
Exports abroad, in turn providing more than 3/4 of Mexico's entire supply of natural gas. Now, this abundant and cheap supply of natural gas coming in from the United States is doing two things. First, it is effectively turbocharging the Mexican economy by providing abundant
Brother, we're taking their fucking oil and gas.
And giving it back to them, and we're like, it's turbocharging their economy. Because when you make something, when you make a finite resource, and you sell it to somebody else, and then you buy it back, that's the economy, dude. That's how the economy works. It's just a series of the same thing being exported and imported. You didn't know that? See, because roads were built.
Cheap natural gas to power factories, cascading on the pre-existing advantages of Mexico's comparatively cheaper labor and ability to export
the pre-existing labor. Pre-existing cheap labor. Pre-existing in what way?
products duty-free into the United States. Now, because of Mexico's geography and correspondingly limited ability to generate surplus capital, Mexican labor is comparatively cheaper than it is elsewhere. Because of enormous and cheap US natural gas supplies,
that's not why it's fucking cheap, man. It's cheap because we're underpaying these motherfuckers.
Because we're literally working them to death.
And electricity rates to power their factories is also comparatively cheaper than it is elsewhere.
What are you
because they're
talking
located directly.
Electricity is cheaper in Mexico? Why? How cheap? I'm glad you had all these graphs. How cheap is it compared elsewhere? Because they work for the United States. Let's see. Let's see.
Electricity would cost the same to produce in America as it does in fucking Spain or Mexico or Utah or China. It's all the same. We have to have the same fucking buildings in order to do this. We have to have the same resources. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's only cheaper because we're using these workers for less.
Dude. I'm sure he would have put up a graph if there was info about it.
Adjacent to the United States, these factories with cheap labor and cheap electricity can easily and cheaply export their finished products to the United States.
Are there comments on this like, this is stupid?
It's probably like epic bacon narwhal.
And then utilize the American highway and rail system to cheaply get their goods anywhere across the country.
No!
I thought we couldn't. I thought we couldn't do that.
In short,
I thought that's why most of Mexico is empty.
It is all a perfect recipe for Mexico.
No, he's saying that they're selling their shit to the United States and then using their infrastructure to transport it to the rest of the United States in order to sell their shit, which is the stupidest thing ever. No, dude, you're not using their fucking infrastructure to do it. You've already sold it to America. You don't have to care about their infrastructure. Yeah,
you're literally being used for your cheap labor to make profit for like 3 people in the company.
These people are fucking insane. This is just crazy.
This is an insane
4.4 million views.
Yeah, no, this is a huge video.
None of the top 5, none of those comments that you read were anything like, this seems a little racist.
Yeah, this seems a little weird that you're talking about it from this standpoint. No, all of them were like, I went to Tijuana once.
This video sucks. Don't finish it. End of the video.
It's too hard to cut down the rainforest to make farmland. It takes time and money yield. God, wow, it's almost like it's a sign we shouldn't be cutting down the rainforest. That's an okay comment. God.
Like, this person has like 4.4 million views. Like, he has to be fucking funded by somebody. Like, somebody's funding his ass to say this shit.
Find out? You want me to look?
Yeah, look at what his fucking videos are.
Okay, so one, there's Brilliant. Brilliant.org. You know, higher education that isn't like a real university.
Manufacturing superpower, and companies from around the world have already begun to take notice of Mexico's advantages.
Advantages?
The advantage is you're working these people without paying them.
Nissan already manufactures.
Bro, the advantages of exploitation. That's so... I never thought about it like that, dude. Every sleazeball capitalist is just fucking running his hands through his slick hair.
More cars in Mexico than they do back home in Japan. By 2021, Mexico had soared through the ranks to become the 5th largest exporter of cars in the world and is...
Oh, Jesus Christ.
...rapidly catching up to the South Koreans, who are in 4th place for now.
So they do have cars.
And the car industry is only one of dozens of examples exactly like this. By 2019, Mexico...
Also, like, in this back end, did he just feel like not doing graphs anymore?
Probably.
...had suddenly displaced...
Because I want to see what the other 12 industries are.
Canada and China, and emerged as the United States' new largest trading partner, a position
Oh, I wonder why.
it is likely to maintain for all of the foreseeable
I wonder
future
why.
because of all the advantages that this video has highlighted.
No,
Advantages.
what advantages? The advantage
of
that
having your
is
people work for nothing and die in
The only thing
poverty.
he said as an advantage is cheap labor.
If this is such an advantage, how come they don't have roads connecting their valleys? How come they don't have railroads connecting their valleys? How come they still have nasty parts of their town? It's not because there isn't police.
Ultimately, all implies that over time, more and more factories and manufacturing jobs are likely to open up near the border region within
This
the
is
north of
sickening,
Mexico
dude.
near to the United States. A trend that will impact where Mexico's people ultimately live out their lives as more and more leave from the historic population core in the center for the new job opportunities opening up in the north. Mexico ended up discovering exactly how to transform their mostly negative geography into a positive.
Whoa, what did he just try to say?
Yo, bro, you couldn't do a second take on that? I might get fucking strikes on my channel for that shit.
Exactly how to transform
One more time. Let's do it one more time.
their mostly negative
It hurt. You can't say that.
geography into a positive, and it will be interesting to see how that influences the pace of Mexico's population distribution over the coming decades. Perhaps with time, most Mexicans in the country will finally live beyond the historic core where the majority has lived for thousands of years. The past 130
Oh my
years saw the
God.
distribution steadily equalize
What the
from
hell's wrong with this
55-45 to
dude?
51-49, so who's to know where the trend will continue going throughout the rest of the 21st century?
Who's to know?
No, the trend.
Who's to know, huh?
It's so easy to
Huh?
fucking tell.
How can
where.
you tell? I don't see, but how can you tell where these populations
It's
are
going to go
go?
to the fucking borderline, and it's going to go to the port.
But how can
That's
you
it.
tell?
That's all you do.
How can you tell? How can you tell that, dude? You don't know. Maybe it'll go down south, bro.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Colombia really
Now,
wants
you will
their
learn
imports.
more about the beautiful
here we go, here we go,
mathematics that
here we
went
go.
into producing this
The
video.
beautiful mathematics that went into producing this nice
What
piece of
math?
propaganda.
What?
No,
What
dude.
you-
All the mathematics he did, meaning getting a spreadsheet, typing down the percentages you find, whether or not they're correct, and then putting them into an infographic.
Video through today's
There was
sponsor,
no math.
Brilliant,
The math
which
was
helped
the
out
amount of people
tremendously
living
with this
somewhere.
video's production.
That doesn't-
Before making
that
this
doesn't
video,
tell
I
you
had a
anything.
pretty
Bro, who the fuck is this? Can I know what your name is? Of course your name isn't fucking attached to this shit. Oh my god, select videos, courtesy of Getty Images, AP Archive. Bro, he literally just used free content to make this video too. That's so disgusting.
This
I thought-
shit's racist. Like,
Bro, it's
at
actually...
minimum, it's just disgusting. At worst, it's literally just American propaganda
Yeah.
in
It's-
order to try to maintain police states within Mexico.
Mexico has so many advantages, like working for 10 cents an hour. People in Mexico are they got so much going on for them now that America has made their labor force basically a slave force of just people working nonstop and dying
It's
at young
beautiful.
ages.
Like, I'm not even like, what else are you supposed to take away from this? Like, sure, the middle part was fine. Like, yeah, it's a little hard to make infrastructure when you got fucking mountains. Whatever.
Yeah,
you can say
I
that.
thought that's what the video would be. I thought it was going to talk about like the environment of Mexico when I was
These
first.
people didn't watch the whole video, or they weren't even listening. They were not listening at all. Because if they listened to literally anything that was said, they would literally just think that this guy's a fucking piece of shit.
All right, I'm going to end the video. I'm going to go to bed, I think. It's late.
Oh, but I want to do the thing.
But it's late. It's 5 a.m.